Throughout the 2010s, shocking cases of child grooming were uncovered throughout the UK, most notably in places in the north of England like Rotherham and Rochdale, with children as young as 11 being beaten and raped by multiple men. The scandal was revealed to be enormous in scale, with victims in the thousands and authorities routinely failing to act. And subsequent reports found that many of the victims had been dismissed by authorities as child prostitutes, or even blamed for their own exploitation by officials. The scandal recently hit the news again after Tory leader Kemi Badenoch and tech billionaire Elon Musk called for another national inquiry into grooming gangs, a call that the government dismissed.
Later today, he will tell Labour MPs to vote against a national inquiry into the gangs which have systematically gang raped children in their constituencies.
So let's take a look at some of the claims relating to the scandal. The scandal is a racial issue. This claim is at least partially true. The issues of ethnicity and religion have made the UK's grooming gang scandal highly controversial. When journalist Andrew Norfolk publicly revealed the abuse taking place in Rotherham, he uncovered a pattern of white girls in the North and Midlands of England being abused by groups of men who were overwhelmingly of Pakistani and Muslim heritage. A subsequent inquiry into Rotherham found that in certain cases, officials hadn't acted on reports due to fears of inflaming racial tensions. And in police investigations, the ethnicities of offenders hadn't been properly recorded or analysed. This lack of ethnic recording by the police makes it difficult to reach broader conclusions about the racial makeup of grooming gangs in the UK. Other paedophile rings, like ones uncovered in Hertfordshire, Hampshire and Glasgow, were mostly made up of white men. But in the high-profile cases of Rotherham, Rochdale and Telford, most of the convicted perpetrators were South Asian men, and the victims mostly white girls. This racial factor, along with some details from grooming gang reports, has led to criticisms that the authorities failed to intervene due to the race of the abusers. This claim is also true, based on reports into grooming gangs, although it's not the sole reason behind the lack of proper investigation. When Alexis J led her report into Rotherham grooming gangs in 2014, she interviewed council staff who described themselves as being anxious about identifying the ethnic origins of perpetrators for fear of being considered racist. Another review found that a chief inspector in Rotherham had told a missing child's father, "With it being Asians, we can't afford for this to be coming out." And in Telford, an inquiry found clear evidence that children being abused by men of Southern Asian heritage had been ignored by authorities, which emboldened the offenders. Other reports have pointed towards different bases for inaction, including victim blaming, misogyny, and classism. They found that authorities consistently disbelieved the accounts of young victims, many of whom were living in social care. In one instance, a victim's case was dropped by the CPS despite strong evidence of rape on the grounds that she wouldn't appear reliable or credible in court. Alexis J noted that the police had shown a lack of respect for victims, deeming them undesirables, unworthy of police protection. Because of the enormous scale of the scandal, it's difficult to find the biggest reason behind the authorities' initial failure to intervene and prosecute. But various reports have signalled that fear of racial tensions did play a part. And thanks to police, counsel and prosecution reforms over the last 15 years, more and more grooming gangs have been convicted in trials across the country, putting scores of offenders in jail. Starmer covered up the scandal. This spurious claim came from Elon Musk, who tweeted that Keir Starmer should go to prison because of his complicity in the grooming gang scandal. Starmer ran the Crown Prosecution Service between 2008 and 2013, during the initial uncovering of grooming gangs in the north of England. In this time, Starmer and Chief Crown Prosecutor Nazir Afzal overturned a previous decision by lawyers not to prosecute alleged perpetrators in Rochdale, leading to the conviction of 9 men and eventually many more across the UK. Starmer later revised CPS procedures around grooming and left the organisation in 2013 with its highest rate of sex abuse convictions up to that point. Andrew Norfolk, the reporter who first broke the grooming gang story and triggered several inquiries, combated Musk's claim, arguing that it was Starmer who changed the rules to make more prosecutions possible. Musk also claimed that Starmer ignored the pleas of little girls to score political points, even though Starmer didn't become a politician until 2015. This claim then is demonstrably false. Various media institutions have reported that Labour voted down the Tories' bill for a national inquiry into grooming gangs, but the truth is a little bit more complex. Labour had been attempting to pass the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill, which aims to protect vulnerable children by tightening rules on homeschooling and also includes other measures like free primary school breakfasts. The Tories added an amendment to include a national inquiry into grooming gangs, which would have killed the bill if it had passed. And this has led Labour MPs to accuse the Tories of political opportunism.
Not once in 8 years did she stand here and say what she's just said. Not once in 8 years. They didn't act on the recommendations. They want a national inquiry. We had a national inquiry, the J inquiry, the J report. 20 recommendations, not a single one implemented.
Labour voted down the Tories' amendment, claiming that they are focused on implementing the recommendations of Alexis Jay's inquiry rather than launching another. Victims want another national inquiry. Due to the huge number of grooming gang victims, this claim can't be labelled definitively true or false. Some victims have approached the media to pledge their support for a new inquiry. At the same time, Alexis Jay told Radio 4 that victims want action and don't need another inquiry. The grooming gang scandal has already produced various local inquiries, and Alexis Jay's National Child Sexual Abuse Inquiry produced a report specifically focused on grooming gangs. Jay supports Labour's pledges to implement her recommendations, including plans for this year to make it illegal to cover up or fail to report child sexual abuse. The government's Minister for Victims and Violence Against Women and Girls said on the subject, "We have been in government for 6 months. The previous government had years to implement these recommendations and sat on their hands instead of actually acting." Now, with Nigel Farage announcing an unofficial inquiry if the government don't launch one, and the Tories promising to do everything they can to pressure Labour, this debate seems far from over.